Hello and welcome to part two of my mass terrain project. Right, so the plaster on these has dried really well now. So I'm ready to start the painting process. And I thought with these, certainly with these basic rocks, I'm going to go for, I think they call it like a tiger pattern of blending colours for the rocks. And the colours that I've gone for is I've got some ochre, I've got some umber brown. I haven't really got a darker brown, so I'm going to put a bit of black in with it, and hopefully that'll take it down to the colour I'm looking for. So what I'm going to do now, because I don't want these too strong, particularly the ochre because it is a high viscosity paint, is I'm going to add some water. I just want enough to kind of cover it, really. So that's one syringe full. Do the same with my umber brown. Now this black and brown one that I'm mixing up, I'm going to do double the amount on that because that's going to be the one that I paint over the top. You don't really need a syringe to do this. I'm just doing it so I don't make a mess. But essentially what you're looking for is the darker brown that I'm using as the all over one needs to be twice as watered down as the others because you need the others to show through. It's not an exact science. It might be one where I've got to play around with the mixtures to make sure I get it right, but let's just give it a go. Mix this one in first. As I say, this one's going to make it a bit harder because it is such a high viscosity paint. And that's way too thick. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add more. Yeah, that's a bit runnier, that's a bit better. It's still fairly high. Just don't want no thick stuff going on there. Let's just try it. Now basically what I'm looking to do is randomly add these colours, but at the same time I'm looking ideally to get, say, about a third of something like this rock covered in, a third of it in the ochre, a third of it in the umber brown, and leave a third of it white because that's what's going to add to the effect when we use the over dark brown wash to bring it all together. So let me just try it on this first one. It's still very high, this one. It's like basically obviously through its name is tiger stripes. It's not too bad. I'm not convinced it don't need a bit more water yet, but I'm going to persevere. Get to the last one on this tray. Right. Just clean the brush up a little bit. Let's move over to the brown umber. You know, I think what I'm going to do to this one is I'm going to add a little bit of red in it, you know, to define the brown a bit more. You know, make it a little bit of a lighter. Yeah, that's better. More of a reddy brown now. It's just personal choice, really. I mean, you could have gone with just a basic light brown, but I am gonna, because I've obviously put a lot of paint in, I'm gonna add more water. Right, let's start the first one. Now, it doesn't really matter if it starts to blend in, you know, or you go over some of the other colour, that doesn't matter. The important thing is that you leave at least a third white. So that's what it's looking like. I know it looks pretty rubbish at the minute, but it'll come together. Obviously, when you put the main coat over the top, that's going to unify it a bit. I'm going to work my way through all of the others that I've got, you know, including the large ones. I'll do the same to them. Just these first two coats. I won't keep you watching that because it'll be fairly repetitive. But what I'll do is when I'm ready to put the next one on, the wash one over the top, I'll bring you back and show you it. Right, so I'm going to go and let them dry, and I'm going to go and do the same to all the rest now, and then I'll bring you back. Right, so as you can see, I've done all the others now, and I've also coated some of the areas that might take grass in a dark colour ready.
But basically all I'm going to be waiting for now is for these to dry. As soon as I've had a chance to dry, I'll be moving on to the coat that's going to unify it all. So, right, I'll bring you back then.
Right, so I've been playing around to get the right consistency. I've tried a few. This one looks to be about right. Basically, you want it thin enough that the other colours are going to show through, but thick enough to colour the white and it not look, like there's too much white coming through. So it took a little bit of trial and error, but I've got the right colour now. So all I'm doing is spreading it out over it. And to be honest, what I'm finding is one dip of the brush is enough. And then just spread out what I put on. Because if, later on, obviously, when this is dried and we seal it, we will be going over with a thin black wash as well to pick out some of the features. But that's ideal. That's what I'm looking for. So as you can see, at least it's looking more realistic. You ain't got that shocking two-tone colour. But I don't know whether you can see it. If I bring a light over it, you can see the other colours coming through. And that's what gives it that multi-tonal look that stone really has. I mean, obviously at the minute it's predominantly brown, but once we get that black wash over the top as well, that'll add another dimension to it. Right, so I'm just going to go ahead doing the same with all of these now. Like I say, one dip of my brush is enough. I don't want these too wet. Just make sure you go over it all. Underneath any of the bits that are out of sight, because they won't be out of sight if they dry a different colour, that I can assure you. And that's that one. I think you can see the colours coming through on that one a bit more as well. Right, I'll get them all done to the same level, and then I'll bring you back. Maybe when I'm doing some of the bigger ones. Right, I'm moving on to the last one, the large one. Same process, just painting over it all. It does take a bit of experimenting to get the wash right, so it's not too powerful. But it is very deceiving, because when you're painting it on, you think, oh, that's too dark, it's covering it all. But trust me, when it dries, there's times when you think you're going to need to go over it again because it's gone so transparent. But I suppose at the end of the day, the best thing is, you know, going on, you know, if anything, err on the cautious side and go for a slightly weaker wash, because you can always go over it again. Whereas obviously if you make it too thick, you know, you can't really take it back off. But as I say, it is very deceiving when you paint it on because it looks like it's just obscuring everything. You know, I've gone with this same technique on all of these, purely because I'm doing so many at once and it's just easier to, you know, have it as a bit of a production line, really, you know. So I'm not having to keep cleaning up all the time between different brush colours. But you can do a similar technique to this, applying dry brushing, and then, you know, and you don't have to just stick to those colours. You know, because rocks can have a multiple of colours showing through in them. You can see all sorts if you look really closely. You know, blues, greens, oranges, reds, everything. You know, so this is one technique, but don't be afraid to experiment. You know, because you can get some very interesting effects by building up the coats, you know, one at a time, and yet have some lovely colours underneath that just catch the eye. It might be that some of these that I'm doing will probably, you know, lend themselves more, you know, to science fiction or fantasy, but I mean this one I think is perfect for bolt action. But then again, you could play, you know, a variety of historical games using this kind of hill. I mean, basically when I've been doing these ones, I'm just experimenting because I've got so much of this foam, you know, looking for different things that'll work. But, you know, obviously, as with when you're working on a project in bolt action, you know, and you're looking for a specific battle, then obviously you would colour and carve ills that match that environment, you know, that you're looking for. You can see that, look, it's already, now that we've come back round to where we started, you can already see the yellows and the redder browns starting to poke through as it dries. Right. Just give this a quick brush over and make sure I get rid of all these white spots. I think that'll do for now. I'll let that dry. Right. I'll take a few pictures of them and I'll come back and show you how this one's dried out. And then we'll be slowly getting ready for the next stage, which I say is what I'm going to do is when these are completely and utterly dry, I'm going to mist them with some watered down PVA just to lock this in, and then I'm going to go over it with a very, very thin black wash, and then that should be it for the washes. Then we'll be ready to start moving on to the flocks and the grits and everything else. Right, I'll see you soon. Right, it's not completely dry, this one, but I thought I'd just quickly bring it back to show you. You see how much it's lightened up, and you can see them colours coming through. Yeah, it looked really dark when we were painting it on. So, you know, don't be deceived. You know, if you think it's looking too dark, just let a little bit of it dry first, and you can see, look, there's plenty of colour coming through on everywhere, look. So, but it is, you know, I just thought it'd be worth showing you that rather than just telling you about it, so you can actually see that it does lighten up quite a lot. Right, as I said, I'm going to get all of these sealed now. I'm going to mist them with some watered down PVA when they're dry. They're not completely dry yet. Give them a wash all over with this, you know, with a watered down PVA. Then let that really dry, and then we'll apply that last very thin black coat. After that, you can seal it again if you really want to. But obviously we're going to be sealing lots of grass and grits things, so you might not need to. Maybe on some of the others where there's not so much greenery. But right, well, I'll bring you back soon. Right, so this is the final wash that I'm going to be doing on these. And it's basically a very watery, thin black wash. I've just mixed some black craft paint down with water and checked it on the sides of the pot just to make sure that it's thin enough, and just paste this over the top. Again, like the previous part, it looks darker than it will once it dries out. You could, if you wanted to, go with some lighter colours, but I would do that in the previous step. You could go for a lighter grey colour over them initial colours to bring them together. But that's what it's looking like. As I say, once it's dry it'll look a bit lighter than that. But it will add shadow to it, and that's the important thing. So what I'm doing now is I'm just giving them all a light brush over to let, you know, get some highlights where the light's catching it. And I'm using some skeleton bone for this because I wanted it more of a beige look. Unfortunately, this one's not quite dry, so I can't get everywhere at the minute, but I think you can see how it's starting to bring out edges and shapes. You can see more of the texture coming out of it now. Right, show you this one. Let's get a bit more on there. What I'm doing is just, you know, get a light dab of it all over this. Spread it out as much as possible on the brush, and then get a lot of that back off. see that starting to pick it out now. Obviously you go with the colour of whatever the rocks are that you're doing. These are a predominantly brown sort of rock, so I've gone with a skeleton bone, which is more of a beige colour. But if it was a grey, I'd go with a very light grey to pick these light spots out. And you want to pick out all the little stones that you've laid on the floor as well. Brings them to life as well. If you look at that bit of bark, look. You see what it does, it brings out that real rock look that I'm aiming for. A few little stones down there as well to highlight. You see them?
Right, so I've gone ahead and I've done the dry brush highlighting now to all the other pieces, all the large ones as well. And they're drying nicely. So I'll bring you back when we're moving on to the next stage, which is going to be adding some grass.
Right, so here comes the interesting bit where it all starts coming to life. So what I'm doing is pasting some PVA on here on the bottom. Trying not to get it on any of the individual rocks. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with some light green. Just do a generous sprinkle of that. I'm doing it individually over the tray so that way I can, you know, pick up all the scatter that drops. I'm not going to apply any more glue at the minute, but I am going to add the next flock. So what I'm going to go for now is a little bit of the medium mid-green colour. What I'm looking to do is basically the nearer in towards the rock I get, the more intense I'm going to do the darker colours, because that'll represent where, you know, it's getting, where there's more moisture in the ground. Right, now that that's done, I'm going to go straight on with a bit of the really dark stuff, but I'm going to be a bit more sparing with this, with the darker green. That's that. And then to bring it all together, I've just got some very fine dead grass, We'll lightly sprinkle this on the entire areas. You can see how little I'm adding. There you go, that's what it's looking like. I'm just going to blend that. You see where there's an obvious... Just sprinkle a bit of this on it. And that takes that away, so it's more of a blend. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to focus on the scatter first, and then if I want to add tufts and things like that, I'll come back to that. Right, so once it's all sprinkled on, what I do is I give it a light spray of isopropanol. And basically what this does is it'll break up the surface tension, and then the other thing that it allows it to do is it allows this watered down PVA to go right through all of the layers and bond them all together. I'm just putting it on with a pipette because that way I can control the amount that goes on. Let it drip a few bits off. There. You can see, and now we can just put that aside to dry. And that's what I'm doing with every single one of them, because that'll help bond them, you know, ready for the next stage. Right, I'll bring you back when I've got through a few more.
Well, it's took some time, as you can imagine, but I've pressed ahead and done exactly the same process on all the other ones. And, you know, same techniques, blending the colours together, keeping some of the darkest stuff to being close to the rocks, because that's often where you see the longer grass, because you know, it's not exposed to the wind so much, so you get darker grass because the ground's more moist. And basically then all I've done is gone over it all with the dead grass, and then, as we did before, some watered down isopropanol to break the surface tension, and then give them all a good coat of watered down PVA, and that'll bond it all together.
Right, so with these two that are, you know, slightly weird, as I said before, I'm thinking more fantasy or science fiction. You know, it's clearly not a natural rock. It looks like it's been, you know, partly carved. So that's the theme I'm going to go with. So no grass for this one. I've never used these before, but I'm going to go for, well, the main earth. I'm going to use some Mars earth that I got from Geek Gaming, because I saw it as more of a space type thing. And I thought I'd try this. This is not something I've ever used before, but like little crystals. And I thought I could put little clumps on it, you know, not too many, to make it look like some kind of resource. You know, just to give it a different look, really. So I'm going to pick a few bits out that I like. Let's scatter a few out first. I want some that are going to kind of work together in, say, a clump of 3. Slightly pointy type rock I want. Oh, that one looks quite good if I have it upright. Right, so something like that really. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some contact liquid, UHU, to stick those down, and then PVA around them to add the Mars Earth. Right, I'll just get myself sorted and I'll be right back. Right, so I've sorted out a few little sets to go with, and I'm thinking of putting the first one about here. Right, let's bring that up so you can see it. I don't want to overdo it, so I think I'm going to put, I don't really want it too symmetrical either, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for one here. Right, I'll just place these ones in. So that's the first one. That's it. So that's that one there, and I think I will put one more, but I'm going to go for a little one just here that's not fully developed. I'll just put a bit more of this contact glue down because I want something that's going to grip it. I mean, obviously I'm going to be putting PVA on when I come to put the soil on, so that's going to do the major job as well. So there we go. Threads of the glue. Right, so there's a little one. I'm not going to bother about the fact that there's you know, bit of glue showing because it won't, because obviously I'm going to be going over it with PVA and then putting the earth soil on. But I think that's enough. If I put too many on, it's going to look, it just won't look right. So that's all I'm going to put on that one, and then I'll save these others and see if I need them on that one. Right, I'll just get some PVA out and then we'll start with the next bit. Right, I've got my PVA. I'm going to paste this even among some of this rubble, because some of it can fall in among that. I need a bit in here as well. And the other thing, I mean, obviously I don't know where this is going to be based in a game, but I know Mars, there's all those winds and some of the light dust will blow everywhere, so I'm going to put some smears of glue here and there just to catch a bit of it on the rocks itself. Nothing too major. Alright. I'm going to do this over the tray so I can gather up anything that I don't use. Bigger bits there, I don't want them. Let's have some of this dust. It's basically like the wind's blown this up, blown it around. Obviously not all of this will stick, you know, we'll be tipping it off. I don't want to be too vigorous with it at the minute because obviously my crystals are not stuck down and set yet. So that's what that's looking like. I don't think that looks too bad. The rock seems to work with it well. Let's just put that one to one side. Put that there. Alright, let's get these crystals in place on this one. Just put that down out of the way for a minute. Right, definitely on that corner, I think. Right, just a bit here. Then I'm going to put these slightly bigger ones here, I think. I think I want this to sit first. Something like that. Right, a slightly bigger one on that one. Right, so I pressed ahead, picked myself some crystals out. I put 3 sets on this one. I got them there, a little one there, and one on that corner. And I've gone ahead and put the PVA on because I didn't want to drag you through watching that again. It's a bit boring. So now what I'm going to do is put some of this on. go for some of the finer stuff. Take out some of these bigger clumps, they're too big. I will go over with some watered down PVA eventually as well, just to seal it. That's that one. I think they make quite a good little set actually. It's probably not, you know, something I'm going to use because obviously I'm, as you know, bolt action focused, but you know, whatever I don't use I can also, you know, pass it on or sell it, whatever. But it's good to experiment because you do get other ideas and you do, you know, experiment with some textures and colours that you wouldn't think could work. I mean, one thing that I've noticed about this Mars Earth is it also worked quite well if you didn't go too mad with it as brick dust. Yeah, it's not one I would have bought. You know, I'd looked at it and thought, Mars Earth, no, I'm not going to use that. But I think that could work quite well if you mixed it in with a few bricks and scattered it. Anyway, that's them two done. I've actually, because it's for once, it's sunny outside, so I've been letting the others dry for a bit. The next stage will be on them. These I'm going to call done. But the other ones, I might add a few little shrubs and bushes or whatever. But I'm going to look at them, you know, on a one-to-one basis and see what I think looks right. Right, I'll bring you back at the next stage. Right, so I'm on to the next stage now of just making these rocks look a little bit more interesting. So what I've done is I've got together a collection of my clump foams that I think would work with these. Various tufts, some that I've made myself, some that I've purchased, like these ones are from Serious Play. And I don't want to overdo it again, but you know, just something to give it a bit more interest value. And what I'm going to do, I know they're self-sticking, but I never completely trust it. So I've got a little polythene bag here, and what I do, so I can keep control of how much I'm pouring on, is I'll put a smear of this on here. Spread it out. And that way, when I pick one, I can just dip it in it. And I don't risk pouring too much on where I don't want it. So, I think I'm going to go with some of these old ones that I made. You didn't want to give up the ghost. So just put a little bit in there. You can see the glue oozing out a bit, but that's not going to matter because we're going to be sealing these again anyway. Right. I think what I might do is I might use some of this heather. It's not one I use a great deal, but it's lasted forever. I took them up against the rocks. You see that? Put a bit of light on it. Nothing major. I won't do the same on all of them, but some I'll go for something a bit more dramatic. But quite happy with just that at the moment on here. Right, this one, I'm going to use this stuff. That's that one. It can stand a little bit more yet, but like I say, I don't want to overkill it, and I don't want to add too great a variety either, because I think that jars a bit sometimes. So I'm going to use another one of these that I made. Squeeze that in there. And another one of them as well. Just have it as a clump. Put that down there as well. You see that? Just there. Right, I'm going to go ahead, do a few of these, and then I can bring them back and show you, because I don't want to just show you me putting on individual clumps. So I'll do a few varieties on a few of the rocks, and then I'll bring you back. Right, so I've pressed ahead, and I've added all kinds of different textures, some grit on this one. I've gone with a lot of the clump foliage as well, of all three tones. And I've just basically treated each one as an individual and added what I thought looked right. I've also started dividing them down into sets, ones that I think will work together, and I've used similar material on each one. Right, I've given these a thorough soaking in watered down PVA, and as soon as they're dry, I'll bring you back and show you some of the finished pictures. Right, so now that they're all dry, I thought I'd set up a piece of scenery board and show you what they look like. Right, on this one, I've just gone for a plain background because I haven't got a space background that I can use. You'll see on a lot of these pictures I've put in some bolt action figures. It's just to give an idea of size. But the good thing about most of these is they'll work with a variety of sizes and scales. I think you could use 172 with this, all the way up to 32mm and beyond. And in terms of genre, I think they could go from prehistory through Roman history, medieval times, War of the Roses, Civil War, Napoleonic, World War, Wild West even. And of course, fantasy and sci-fi. And at the end of the day, it's given me a chance to experiment. I'm not sure that I'd go for doing as many as this in one go again, because it has been quite a long process, as you can imagine, because obviously it started with the raw material, and then there's been all the carving and the different stages. But I think you can see now, what I envisaged from the beginning, what I was aiming for,
I mean, they're very playable pieces of scatter terrain, and they can be used in a variety of, like I say, variety of games and scales. So overall, I'm pretty pleased with them. But I think there's over 36 individual pieces, so I don't think I'm going to be doing that many in one go again. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've found something interesting in it that you can use with your terrain. As I've said throughout, there's so many different ways I could have gone with this. I've gone for more of a brown base rock here. In the past, I've gone for, different tones of grey. It really does come down to what you're looking for. On this occasion, I've just gone, I've just let my imagination wander and created a whole range of different things. But that wouldn't be my normal process. I would normally, set out to build something that I needed. But it has been a great learning process, and I hope it's been useful to you. If you have liked it, please consider giving me a thumbs up or dropping a comment. If there's any questions you want to ask, I'll always answer. Any suggestions. At the end of the day, it's one of those things where you can just let your imagination go. And I hope, if I've not shown anything else, that's come through in the video. Anyway, as I've said before, if you do like the videos, please consider subscribing. Click that bell so you get notifications when any future videos drop. If you want to see more of this kind of work, just, drop a comment below. I'm always looking for ideas, but, basically, I still want to return to some of the major projects that I'm looking at. So you're going to see a lot more bolt action stuff in the future. And a lot of it is going to be based around Normandy and D-Day landings and things like that. But I just thought it'd be useful to show a wide variety, because I know there's a lot of people out there that are not like me, that don't stick to one genre. They play a variety of different games. So anyway, I'm waffling. So as I say, hope you've enjoyed it. And if you have, hopefully I'll see you again soon. Bye.